Hi guys, my name is Roger, and I'm building a mid-engine supercar in the basement of my home. Let's take a look at what I've been working on this week.
Okay, so we're out here in the garage. It's early in the morning. I'm getting ready to start making the part on this mold. You can see here I'm using my lawnmower and little dump trailer to move this mold around because it's so heavy I can barely move it by myself. But this way I was able to spray the gel coat outside of my basement, move this up to the garage and bring it inside. I'll use this as a work table to do all of the layup here, getting this ready to put in the oven. And then I can just back up a little bit closer and pull it off of the dump trailer and load it in the oven. That way I don't have to carry it so far because it is really heavy. And I'm here, I've rearranged a little bit in the garage to make some more room. So here is my table over here to the side. And I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this. This will be an all-day project. Laying this mold up and then cooking it for 6 hours will take probably 10 to 12 hours total. So let's get started working on this. I guess you could tell from the video that the part didn't completely fill and the part was no good. I can't use it. And there's several reasons for that. I'll explain them to you when we make the next part, what I've learned and what I've done to fix the problem. But I wanted to take this bad part and lay it here on the cards to get an idea of what it looks like, and I wanted to show you this. Now, I didn't even bake this part in the oven, so you can see it has a white texture all around. The glue didn't bond to the gel coat completely because I did not cook it. And also because I didn't put it in the oven, it's a little distorted. It's not 100% correct to shape. And the far side over here doesn't have any epoxy in it, so it's just floppy fabric. But I taped it up here just to kind of show you what this looks like. You can see it somewhat aligns with the top. As we come over here, this is where there's no resin or no glue in the fabric, so it's just floppy here along this edge all the way up the side actually. Trying to get back far enough away you can see this. This is kind of what it would look like. You can see how the shape of the car makes a nice gradual curve and comes down the back. And I guess we'll chalk this up as a learning experience. I think I have the solution to make this work correctly the next time, and I'll explain it as we're doing it so you can see what the problems were and what I did to solve them, and hopefully it'll work correctly the next time. But let's chalk this one up to experience and see how it goes the next time I try again. Okay, this is our second attempt at making this rear hatch. And what I've done differently on this attempt is I went from one tub of glue or one bucket of glue or resin to two buckets of resin. And I also raised the height of these buckets. I made a taller post to mount them to, so I'm getting more gravity helping to push the epoxy resin in than using the vacuum to pull it completely. Also, I changed the size of the tubing running to the mold from a 1/4 inch ID tubing to a 3/8 inch ID tubing. I changed the fittings, the hard tubing to the mold, and the spiral wrap inside the mold, all to this 3/8 ID tubing. And all of these things combined helped tremendously. The first mold took about 1 hour and 45 minutes before it stopped moving and started solidifying to the point that the resin wouldn't flow any farther. And on this one totally filled in just over an hour, like 1 hour and 5 minutes. And it would have filled quicker, except it took the last 10 or 15 minutes to fill this corner that you're seeing on the top right corner. It took a while. And I believe it was slow because where I had the vacuum line. If I'd put that vacuum line completely in a corner, I think this would have filled completely in less time and worked great. Well, as you can see, we had better success this time. We made what I believe is a successful part. It looks good. There's a couple of little spots on it that I'll have to do some work on. You could see in the video that I had trouble filling this corner up here. I think I had the vacuum line. I had 3 vacuum lines, one near each corner and one in the center. I think this one over here should have been more over to the corner. I had trouble getting it to fill with resin. And you can see it's a little bit white or chalky looking here on this corner, but it was fully saturated. Everything looks good. There's a little bit of, I think, what they call alligatoring. I can feel just a little texture here, but this should sand out. If not, it's just a little bit of a heavy coat of primer and wet sanded that'll disappear. There is one little spot here where the gel coat isn't attached really good. There's a little tiny divot right here. So I may have to fix this corner right here just a little, but it's just a tiny spot. Other than that, the glass looks like it's going to fit okay. I can't tell for sure until I cut out the shape and drop it in. There's tabs on the back side where the rear defroster attaches, and they're sitting on those tabs, or the glass is sitting on those tabs and not letting it go all the way down into the part itself, so I can't see how it fits completely. But the upper end is sitting in the pocket. It's just the bottom is raised a little, but it looks like it's very close. I think I can, once that sits down in there to the correct height, I think I can shift it around and get it centered, and it looks like it'll have good clearance all the way around and look like it's supposed to. But to be sure, let's get this part trimmed out. I'm going to get the Dremel tool out, trim around the perimeter, trim out the inside where the glass goes, and we'll set this up on the car and take a look and see what it looks like. Well, this is probably what you all came here to see. This is the part that has been trimmed out around the perimeter, trimmed out for the glass, and the glass is sitting in the pocket where it needs to locate. And all in all, I'm pretty happy with this. There are a few little areas that I need to touch up. Mostly that is going to be priming and sanding. Kind of see what this looks like. Now the glass isn't sitting in perfectly, actually it's a little crooked, but the gap around the perimeter of it looks like it's pretty consistent if I move that just slightly. So all that looks nice. This is where the air will escape. Hopefully this will pull a vacuum and suck air out of the engine area. There'll also be a lot of mesh back here in the back to pull air through, and it'll come in on these side intakes. Hopefully that'll evacuate all the heat well enough to keep the carbon fiber piece and the engine bay cool. Most likely I'll have to do some heat shields over the muffler area and over the turbos, maybe even turbo blankets or something, but we'll worry about that later. You can see here the shape of the roof coming down to the hatch is nice and consistent. Now I'll have to work on this line here. I'll have to sand and clean that up and get it consistent, but we'll have to get all the body parts made and locate them first, so I'll know exactly where the hinge line is going to be, and then I'll come back in and clean these up. I mean, they're close. This is sagging just a little, but from the weight of it I can push it up. It's easy to push, and that'll be fixed by the inner liner. There'll be an inner liner around the perimeter of this hatch, like all hatches have. I mean, on metal cars there's two pieces of stamped metal welded together, and that makes a rigid assembly. This is flexible. You can take it on the back edge and flex it quite a bit, even with this standing still up here. So it needs that inner panel glued to it to make it rigid. And when we do it, that'll support that area and bring that back up where it needs to be. So I'm not worried about that. The body lines here look pretty nice. They line up on both sides. They're not absolutely perfect, but I think once I pull this gap to where it needs to be for the hinge line, those will line up and look really nice. Have a little bit of area here where the gel coat didn't stick well. It's chipping off. I need to flake all that off that I can, and that's one of the areas I'll need to come back in and prime and sand and blend that in. Here is one of the toes of fiber that got in underneath the fabric when I laid it in, and I didn't see it. Luckily we're painting this part. If it was going to be left raw carbon, that would be a big issue, but it will be hidden under the paint. This part looks good when you take and wipe it with something wet, like a degreaser, which I used to get some of the wax off of it. It was really shiny and consistent looking. It would have made a nice part other than a few little spots. But you can see I have the hatch taped with some clear tape to hold it in place, and I have a little support underneath here to hold it somewhere close to the right dimension. But I'm happy with this. This looks like a successful body part number 2. We have a roof and a rear hatch. So the next part I'm going to make is this side frame here for where the window is. It'll include the A pillar and the B pillar and this little quarter window, and come on back just behind the window. I'll leave it long at the bottom so we can trim it out and fit it to what it needs to be fitted to. And I have already started working on the model for that part in SolidWorks, getting it ready to pull over into a mold so we can cut the mold. It'll take me a few days to have it ready, and then several days to glue up a mold and start cutting on it. That should be what we're doing in the next video, is getting another mold ready to go to the CNC and cut for this driver's side window. And once we finish this, it'll be an easy fix to do the passenger's window, because it's just a mirrored part, so I can mirror what I have worked on for several hours and have the other part ready to go. So that one should go quick. But that's going to be about it for this week's video, and I'll see you guys again in a few weeks.